If you're looking to buy a stacked NBA 2K account with max badges and more, visit sportstmb.com. He has been in the community for years and has hundreds of reviews. Click the first link in the description to get your account today.
The Los Angeles Lakers just lost to the Dallas Mavericks 114-100, and that game is not why I'm making this video. I had a video planned on why the Lakers were overrated for a few days now, because when I saw how easy their schedule had been so far, I felt people, or at least Lakers fans, were overreacting and overhyping this team quite a bit. Them finally losing the third game of the year is not why I think this team is overrated. However, I do think it helps me prove some of the points that I make in this video. The Lakers are 17-3, and as I said, that record has come from an easy schedule. I think this game versus the Mavericks was the first real challenge that this team has faced. I understand the Lakers faced the Mavericks before, but one, that game was close, and two, I don't think that Mavs team had hit their stride quite like they are right now in that first game. So let's look at that record, the schedule that got them there, and why I think the Lakers are overall overrated. Of the 17 wins that the Lakers have gotten so far this season, only 3 of them have come from teams above 500. And only 5 of those teams below 500, one of them being the OKC Thunder twice, were top 10 seeds in their conferences. Those teams being the Suns, Hornets, Wizards, Kings, and obviously Thunder. They have beaten the Spurs twice, the Grizzlies twice, the Bulls, the Hawks, and the Pelicans. All really bad teams. So the Lakers have a great record, but when you look into it, that has come from a very easy schedule. And when they ended up facing only the second real challenge of the year in the Dallas Mavericks, they folded. They also lost to a team in the Raptors who really had no business winning that game. No disrespect to Raptors fans, I have a video on your guys' team coming out tomorrow, but the Lakers should have won that game. And they also lost a game to the Clippers without Paul George. They've also won a lot of games by slim margins, and based off of their schedule, those slim margins have come against teams that they should have been beating easily. They only beat the Bulls by 6, OKC by 5 and 3, Grizzlies by 1, and the Pelicans by 4. So that 17-3 record is not nearly as great as it looks on paper. Now, of course, I'm not criticizing them for winning games. Easy schedule or not, they are winning those games, unlike a team like the 76ers, who despite an easy schedule have lost a bunch of games. It's a good sign that they are taking care of bad teams rather than struggling with them, but nevertheless, it is a sign that that record is overrated. Over the next 11 games, the Lakers will have a fairly hard schedule. They have the Nuggets, then the Jazz, and then the Heat, Bucks, which I think will be a huge challenge, the Nuggets again, and then the Clippers should be a big challenge unless Kawhi decides he doesn't feel like it that day. If the Lakers come out of that stretch and they still look really good, then it's time to hype them up, but not right now. But the easy schedule is not the only reason I feel this Lakers team is overrated. I picked the Clippers to win the championship this year and in turn win the West over the Lakers for one simple reason: depth. I don't really think it's even a debate which team has a better duo. AD is objectively better than Paul George, and the difference between Kawhi and LeBron isn't much, even though I would give the edge to Kawhi. And the fact that it's a big man and a perimeter player makes it a much better fit. AD and LeBron can play off of each other much better than Paul George and Kawhi can play off of each other. So the two best players conversation, the Lakers win that one by a pretty decent margin. But when you look at the rest of the rosters, the Clippers win by a landslide. The Clippers have the best bench in the NBA, the Lakers have arguably the worst. Now, I'm not unique in my criticisms of the Lakers' depth, but I do think I'm pretty unique in how big of a deal I think it's going to be. be. Looking at the starters, Danny Green is a good starting 2-guard, really good shooter, good defensive player, no complaints there. JaVale McGee is starting at the center spot. I personally believe that AD is at his best as the center, but he clearly is never going to willingly play the center spot, and with AD being an unrestricted free agent this offseason, I understand the Lakers basically treating him like royalty. But McGee is definitely a good starting center. Not your first pick for your starting center, but also far from your last. He has pretty great chemistry with Anthony Davis, a chemistry that comes straight out of the 1990s. AD, often as the roll man, goes to the basket, draws McGee's man to the rim, and tosses the lob to him. And with McGee, Anthony Davis, and LeBron in your starting lineup, the Lakers have some pretty damn good rebounding in that starting lineup. It's their bench outside of Dwight Howard that kills them in that area. And AD and McGee make for a fierce interior defense, with them averaging 4 blocks combined. The problem area in their starting lineup is Avery Bradley and or Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Bradley went from barely in the league to starting for a contender, which isn't great. The guy is a really good defensive player still, but his overall scoring and jump shot are passable at best, and it currently is really bad, with him shooting 28% from 3. He's kind of like an Andre Roberson type at this point, except he's not the defender that Roberson is, doesn't have the size or versatility that Roberson does, isn't as good of a rebounder or an athlete, so basically not good. The other guy who has started for the Lakers is KCP, who, even though he's had a good couple game stretch, he overall is not a good player. Okay shooter and defender, but he makes a lot of dumb mistakes, which has killed the Lakers at times. So really no starter for that 2 spot on this team, or 3 spot, since I guess LeBron's a point guard now. Then off of the bench, Dwight Howard's been really great, and I seem to be the only one in the world who is not surprised by this. I've always had an interest in Dwight Howard since his Houston days. What people didn't seem to get was he has always had the level of talent that he is currently playing with. That isn't anything new. It was his mentality that held him back. It's a similar situation to Carmelo Anthony, but I think both of these guys barely being in the NBA allowed them to get over that mental issue they had with basketball, which allowed them to be productive basketball players again. The problem with Dwight Howard after the Orlando days was never accepting the type of player that he was. Always trying to post up when he was objectively bad at it, not really rolling to the basket, which was his best skill, having a bad attitude, talking about trying hard in the locker room but then not practicing what he preached. But with his raw talent as a defender, rebounder, and athlete, Dwight is and has always been towards the top of the league in those categories. And this year, with his head no longer lodged inside of his ass, he's been great. He's averaged 7 points and 7 rebounds as well as 1.5 blocks while shooting 75% in just 20 minutes a game, which would be 12, 12, and 2.5 blocks per 36. And he's played great defense. But after Dwight, I have no more compliments for this Lakers team. I will get to Kuzma in a second, but as a bit of a preview, I told you so, Lakers fans. Rajon Rondo really isn't good anymore. His ball stopping and only passing when he has a potential assist shtick is getting really old. He did it on the Bulls, he did it on the Kings, and he honestly did it a good bit on the Celtics too. He really never was the floor general that people praised him to be, and now that he isn't good at all in the other aspects of the game, he really just ain't great. Alex Caruso isn't great either. I appreciate the memes as much as the next guy, but while bald white guy can dunk, ha ha, he isn't actually that good of a player. Quinn Cook, who's been pretty alright so far, should be getting more minutes than Caruso, and Troy Daniels so far has not hit his shots, and when Troy is not hitting his 3-pointers, he is essentially useless. And then Jared Dudley really has no business playing minutes on a team this good, but because of the lack of depth on this roster, he has been forced to. I'll defend Dudley's value to a decent team tooth and nail, but if you're a contender and Dudley is in your rotation, that is cause for concern. Now let's talk about Kyle Kuzma. I made a video on Kuzma being the most overrated young player in the NBA during the offseason, and so far he has done nothing but prove me right. Kuz is averaging 11 points and 3 rebounds on 44, 33, 77 shooting splits. Dude is a power forward, getting 3 rebounds a game and shooting 44%. But you would think with him coming off of the bench now and facing bench players, his field goal percentage would improve and he would average more points because there'd be less guys to score with him in the game. He would be the go-to guy when the bench unit is in. but instead, he's regressed. He's supposed to be the third scorer on this team and he's putting up 11 a game. I think he can turn it around a bit, but this should serve as a reality check for people who thought this guy was a star. He's an okay scorer that's bad at every other aspect of the game. He is a TJ Warren type of dude. Also, I find it hilarious when people say the Lakers should have traded Kuzma instead of Brandon Ingram, as if that was an option. It wasn't. And as for my take about the Lakers actually losing the Anthony Davis trade because it would just be overall way more of a win for the Pelicans, I stand by it because this Lakers team is not my favorite and I would give it to the Clippers because they have phenomenal depth. Lou Will is the best sixth man in the history of basketball in my opinion, besides for maybe John Havlicek. League's better than Jamal Crawford ever was. Montrezl Harrell, who is also a great sixth man. Jermichael Green, who is shooting 38% from 3 on 4 attempts and playing good defense. Landry Shamet is one of the best shooters in the NBA. Patrick Beverley is a really good 3-and-D guy. Zubac is a good backup center, getting 8.7 boards and 1.1 blocks a game in just 16 minutes, which is 19, 15, and 2.5 blocks per 36. And then Patrick Patterson and Mo Harkless are hitting their three-pointers. This Clippers team is better. The Lakers are overrated, both with their record and their talent level, and ultimately, the Charlotte Hornets are going to win the 2020 championship. That's the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.